Welcome to The Digital Shift. We are your hosts, Jessica Green
and Natasha Roberson. Together, we are here to help you build a tech-savvy empire and take your business to the next level.
If you're an entrepreneur, social marketer, or business owner, ready to scale smarter, not harder, this is the podcast for you.
Every week, we bring you expert insights, actionable strategies, and the latest trends to help you infuse tech into your business so you can automate, optimize, and grow.
From mastering automation and creating high-converting systems to building authentic customer connections, we cover everything you need to shift your business into higher gear.
So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and get ready to make your digital shift.
Let's do this.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Digital Shift podcast. And I am super excited to be here with our special guest, Coach Fryer. And we have had an incredible relationship from the social media side of things to how you guys all know we rock out the back end. And we're super, super grateful to have him on board with us today to talk to you guys more about how to scale with social media, right? We talk about, well, you got to have traffic coming in from somewhere. Where is that traffic going to come from? Well, there's many different avenues, but one big one that has been a highlight for most people in their business is social media. And here's the deal. Are you actually getting the results on social media you desire? Or are you spending more time, wasting more time because there's just some small adjustments that could happen, that you could learn from, that could really explode your entire social media. And then once you have your social media rocking and rolling, it's time to then plug in the back end, which you've heard from us already. The self-made hub is where you want to be there. But enough about that. I want to hear from you, Brian. Number one, talk to us a little bit about your journey, how you became a social media coach, and like why you're in this space.
Yeah, such an interesting conversation. We're gonna have lots of fun today. First of all, Natasha, I just want to say thank you on behalf of you and Jessica and Self-Made. You guys are changing so many lives. You guys have simplified my entire life, my entire business on the back end of things, and I'm just super grateful for you guys, for the partnership we have, and all the people we're being able to impact together. Whether with social media and in the tech side of things. Yeah, I guess my quick story. Where the heck do I even start? I'll try to give the Cliff Notes version. I was born and raised in Southern California. I grew up on the beach. I had a lifelong dream of playing professional baseball. Back in 2004, was fortunate enough to get drafted by the San Diego Padres organization. I played 8 years of minor league baseball. And I always share that two really cool things happened during that time. Number one, I said cool, but it wasn't cool at the time. I actually suffered a back injury. And I spent thousands of dollars on chiropractors, massages, acupuncture, the whole thing. Nothing was working. And then a family friend introduced me to a product, which then led me to the profession of network marketing eventually. And I'm going to come back to that here in just a second. But the second cool thing that happened during my baseball career was I was actually stationed out in Indiana, where I live now. And I met my now wife, my beautiful wife, Danny. We've got 4 amazing kiddos. My 3 girls do competitive dance, can compete all over the place, and my son plays travel hockey. So it's been crazy for sure. But back to the business side of the story. So I was in the network marketing space, built in the field, built 2 really big businesses there over the course of 8.5, 9 years, had a lot of fun. But here's the reality is I struggled my first 4.5 years in business. I actually didn't make a single dollar in profit. And I think back to our journey and I think back, what if I would have quit? What if I would have let some of the haters, the naysayers, even family members, friends saying, what are you doing? It got to the point where my wife was like, are we even making any money? And I was sad to say no. Then there was this really cool thing, Natasha, that came about. It was called the Facebook. I don't know if anybody out there has heard of the Facebook, but this is like 10, 11, 12 years ago. And I was like, I'm struggling building my business person to person. I'm going to try my hand at this social media thing. Fast forward the tape. I took the next 6 months, invested in some coaching, some courses, really started learning and understanding attraction marketing, creating content. And long story short, that second company we were with, we ended up becoming the number 4 income earners there, did a lot of great things, built 100% online, which is really cool. The last part of our story is this. How the heck did I get into the coaching space is, unfortunately, after 3.5 years, that company went away. But I had hundreds of emails, phone calls, texts from literally leaders and entrepreneurs all over the world saying, Brian, can you teach me what you just did? more importantly, can you come help train my people? And so about 8.5, 9 years ago, I transitioned from being in the field to become a generic social media coach for network marketers, entrepreneurs, business owners, real estate agents, the whole gamut. And here we are, fast forward the tape, 9 years later, been able to help a lot of folks. And now with the help of Self-Made, gosh, we're simplifying not only my business after all these years, but all of our clients as well. So grateful to be here.
I love that. And I love that it was like you just kind of stepped into the coaching space. It wasn't a force. It was just like, this is the next door that's opening for me. Like the door just opened and you walked through. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's people ask me now, did you have aspirations and dreams of being like this top social media coach and speak all around the world? I'm like, heck to the no. I'm an introvert at heart. Back in junior college, I was a part of a speech class, and I was literally nudging the teacher in the back of the room before I had to give a 30-second speech with note cards about baseball, mind you, because I was too nervous, and I was back in the back of the room sweating because I didn't want to talk in front of 10 people. Fast forward the tape to coaching, it was definitely not on my radar. God has a bigger plan. Here we are, and we've been able to help a lot of people since.
Absolutely. So there's a little formula that I hear you talk about a lot. I want to just touch on that real quick. We're going to dive deeper into that. But like, what inspired you to create what you created, the GNC method? Like, what was that inspiration?
Yeah, great question. Through lots of trial and error over the years on social media, I think that that's the one thing that a lot of folks struggle with is technology and social media, right? The one constant is change. It's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving, it's constantly updating, right? We're always having to stay on our toes when it comes to that. And I was like, you know what? How can I create something? I look back my first 4, 5, 6, 7 years on social, and I was like, how can I look back at what I've been able to accomplish and help so many others accomplish and simplify, create a framework, create a formula that whether it's today or in 5, 10, 15, 25 years from now, someone could literally follow the same framework, something that's going to outlast me, it's going to stand the test of time. And this is where the GNC philosophy was birthed. And it's simply G stands for growth, N stands for nurture, C stands for conversion. I'll kick you back to you in just a second. I won't go too far in depth here. No matter what platform someone wants to use, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, there's all these cool platforms nowadays. You have to have a strategy to grow, create awareness, reach new people. You have to have a strategy to nurture those folks, earn more trust, and you have to have a strategy to convert, which obviously something like Self-Made comes in play and helps out a lot with that. But that's the simple idea behind that.
Yeah, and I remember, like, I love it because I remember the first time, and it was just recently, like the last few months, that I heard one of your trainings on GNC, and I'll never forget it now. Right? It's so simple, and that was the key that I seen was like he made it so simple. You all know of a GNC out there. It's not that one, but it's this one, and so it clicks in your head. It doesn't like, oh, there was this acronym for something that Coach Fryer talks about. No, you know what it is. So I love that you went with GNC, and it just fits perfectly, even with when I look at just business, maybe not on social media, but I was talking to somebody the other day, and we're going to dive deep into social media of this, but I was talking with somebody. I'm like, think about growth, nurture, and convert in person. They're an in-person kind of business grower, right? I'm like, well, you still have to grow, meaning go network. You still have to nurture, meaning build the relationship, and you still have to convert. You got to ask for the sale. And I'm like, it works everywhere. I love it.
It does. And that's given a lot of thought, of course. And I threw around lots of different ideas. I've come up with lots of different acronyms nowadays just because they are simple. They're easy to remember. You bring up a great point that GNC is not just social media. It's more of like just a concept of business in general. No matter what type of business or service someone has or provides, they need a plan. And we'll probably talk about this word a lot today, I'm sure, throughout it. Is the word intentional, right? You have to have an intentional plan to grow and reach new people, an intentional plan to nurture and warm them up and cultivate that relationship, strengthen that connection there, and then an intentional plan to convert so you can serve these people at the highest level. So yeah, I just think it fits so many different business models, and it's simple to remember, like you said, and it truly will stand the test of time.
Yeah, so let's dive into this one. There's so many things that you can do on social media, right? Like I remember back in the day, it was just posting. That's all you did. You just posted, and it wasn't really, you didn't even have to be creative. You could just post something and it went like, woo, like crazy. And then came the live video, which everybody was scared to do, but those that embraced it grew tremendously. Then came the reels, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. I had no idea. Then the stories came. There's so many avenues when it comes to that. Like, how do you decide for you as an individual, like when you're coaching somebody, how do they decide which type of content is going to be best for them? And like, with their intentional goals, they like setting the goals, like what's going to work for them? How do they come up with that plan?
Yeah. Such a great question. I remember the old school days, right, of Facebook, right, where you could just get away with, hey, just ate a salad, and everyone's, oh my gosh, yeah, great post. Nowadays, you're like, what the heck is wrong with this person? That's just the landscape evolving, which I think is really cool. I love teaching folks all over the world. I'm a big fan of the word simple and simplify. You and myself and even Jessica continue to talk about this and all that we're doing together and creating is if it's not simple, number one, people won't do it. So no matter what, whoever's listening into this, no matter what type of business you have or product or service you offer, I always start with the platform. I think one of the biggest myths, in my opinion, is people think and feel they need to be everywhere. And I'm like, listen, let's figure out the right platform for you first. Number one, where is your current warmest audience and where can you get the most traction, right, with your warmest audience? I'm a big fan of keeping things simple, right? And so figure out which platform is going to be simplest for you. And then you can start talking about all of the tools that are available on that platform. So let's just talk briefly a little bit about Facebook, right? Facebook has Reels now. Facebook has live videos. Facebook has colored background posts. They have stories. They've got lots of cool things. And you go over to Instagram, they've got Reels and carousels, and you can do live videos there too, and stories and broadcast channels. You could just go down the line, TikTok. There's all these different things. But I think what's most important is the word focus. I think too many people overwhelm themselves, like self-inflict the word overwhelm, feeling like they got to be everywhere to everybody and do everything. But the reality is simplify it, right? Choose your platform. Where do you love hanging out most? Where's your warmest audience? And more importantly, where are your ideal new customers, clients hanging out? Just like a simple philosophy that I like sharing, then I'll kick it back to you, is if you're someone who sells a product or a service that appeals to people that are 35 to 65 range, where are most of those folks hanging out nowadays? Sure, there's some on TikTok, there's some on Instagram, but the bigger percentage of those people are probably hanging out on Facebook. Okay. If you sell something that more appeals to the 25 to 40-year-olds, right in that range, a big percentage of those folks are probably hanging out on Instagram. And then obviously you've got something like TikTok where you've got a lot of the younger folks who are the 18 to 25, 28s. A lot of those folks are hanging out there. Depending upon what you promote, what you sell, what you offer, who you're looking to help, I think it's important to figure out which platform you're going to work first.
Absolutely. I love that. And, because I remember once, I was on Facebook. That's where I started, I was back on Facebook when the only way you could have a Facebook account is if you had a university email. And then it was like, why are all these people on here? I thought this was just for universities, like for you to be able to connect with your college friends and stuff. And then Instagram came along, and then TikTok, and you just keep going on. And it got overwhelming to where I was not posting anywhere because I was like, oh, if I can't do it all, I'm not going to do any. And I'm like, well, that's not very smart. That's really not smart at all. And so I love that you just shared, just keep it simple and use the one that you are going to use. Like, using it is going to get you results. Not using it doesn't get you results. So, the next thing, once somebody, especially like, just thinking through my experience, once I picked the platform, then it was like, what should I say? What content do I put out there? And I started to like overthink this of what is going to work out there. And when I started to overthink the content creation, well, it didn't sound like me and it didn't convert. And then I got frustrated. So let's talk a little bit about how you could help these social marketers, these entrepreneurs really get unstuck when it comes to creating content.
Yeah, I think the biggest epiphany so many have had over the years is social media. When it first came out, and I'm laughing because when you needed a whole university email and all that stuff, look how far we've come since those days. But I think just in the last 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years with the evolution of social media, I think in the beginning of times, we posted things, we shared things, and it was all about us, right? I just ate a salad. I'm going to the gym. Everything was about us. And as many may or may not have seen, but over the last several years, it's almost shifted to where if I'm out there creating content, sure, it's cool to share, things about my life. But if you're running a business of any sort, it's really, really important. I guess this is tip number one, is to figure out who in the heck are you wanting to attract? Who are you marketing to? Now, depending upon the platform, there are different strategies for Facebook, different strategies for Instagram and TikTok. I'm not a big fan of posting the same thing on Facebook as you do to Instagram and TikTok. I feel that there should be some differentiation there. But I think it's really important, and every single person who's listening to this needs to answer the question, who do I ultimately want to serve? Who do I ultimately want to attract? Who do I want to help? Yeah. And if you can't answer that question, you have no business going out there and create a bunch of content, right? We got to figure out first and foremost, who needs what you have? Yeah. And then it's very simple to then work backwards. I've shared this phrase with a lot of folks over here. Start with the end in mind. Who do you ultimately want to help, serve, and how?
Guess what? That is our first episode. Yeah. That is the title of our very first podcast of Start with the End in Mind.
It's genius. Most people are like, look at what's right here, right now in front of them. Okay, I'm on Facebook. Okay, I can do stories. I can do reels. Okay, cool. Now, what do I do for content? It's like, you start at the beginning, start at the end. Okay, cool. I'm on Facebook. I got 1,000 friends. Awesome. What is the product? What is the service that I offer, that I promote? Let's start working backwards. Who do I ultimately want to attract more of? How am I going to grow to 2,000 friends, 5,000 friends? Instagram folks, how am I going to go from 100 followers to 1,000 to 10,000? If we don't understand who it is we are trying to help and serve, then we're going to literally just be spinning our plates. I think the days have come and gone. And most business owners, entrepreneurs, social marketers out there, well, everybody needs my product and service, Natasha. Everybody needs. That's the biggest lie, and probably the biggest challenge. Most don't realize that they're inflicting on themselves. And so I think that's a great place to start for most people. If you're listening to this, just pause. Maybe you do feel like you know who you're marketing to. Pause this anyways and go back and just rehash that. And go down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 levels. Find out, really uncover who this person is, because then the content creation side of things, no matter what platform, should come a lot simpler.
That's awesome. And kind of going off of that is, you're keeping it super simple, knowing who you're talking to, and that keeping that end in mind. Let's talk about GNC. And this is where you really opened my eyes to, now you guys are all going to do this too, right? You're all going to do this. Now, when you're on social media, you're actually analyzing people's content and going, is that a growth? Is that a nurture? Is that a conversion? But it really helped me. Your GNC method really helped me simplify when I sit down to do content, because I'm like, you know what? I want to grow my audience. And so I immediately know what kind of content to create, who I'm talking to. We've already figured that out. And what I want them to do is already known. And then if I want to nurture, if I want them to, kind of come in, and then when I want to convert. So let's go through that. Let's dive in to give them some meat here, some really good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Again, each platform has its own nuances and tools that I think, at least at the time of this podcast episode, what I would encourage folks.
You got to time this, right? You got to timestamp this, right?
we got to date this, because things are evolving and changing so quickly. Absolutely. But let's just go through each of the platforms first, and I can just share.
Perfect. Yeah.
I can just share a few thoughts on each. So let's just start with Facebook. It's bread and butter for a lot of folks out there. Mm-hmm. If I was building a business on Facebook today, the first thing I'm going to ask myself, okay, how do I now figure out, with all the things that Facebook offers that I can do, what is going to help me to grow? What is going to help me to nurture? What is going to help me to ultimately convert, right? Some of the best growth strategies on Facebook today are simple things like, number one, doing Facebook Reels. Those are now an option, of course. And I honestly feel such a small percentage of entrepreneurs and business owners are even leveraging Reels. The Reels that people are doing on Facebook at this time are just more like silly and funny, like they don't quite yet grasp. And again, maybe it's like I said earlier, it's like the 35 to 65-year-olds on Facebook. And sure, TikToks are out there, Instagram Reels, those folks get it, but it's like now it's trickling over to Facebook. And I think there's so much opportunity for Facebook Reels, for business owners and entrepreneurs, social marketers to come in and really start committing and being intentional what the reels are creating on Facebook. In my opinion, reels at this moment are the number one fastest, most efficient way to grow your friends, your followers on Facebook, very simply.
Nice.
So reels for
Nice.
sure. Number two would be Facebook groups as far as growth. I think everyone who's tuning into this podcast would not like to admit how many Facebook groups they're currently in. And then everybody covers their eyes and, oh my gosh, Coach Fryer, you just called me out. Yes, I'm in like way too many groups, Coach Fryer. And I'm like, I know, I already know this because that's everybody. My question to all those listening in today is, how many of those groups are you actually participating and contributing? Most of you would say little to none, right? And that's the challenge. So I would encourage, for those tuning in, write this down. You have one of two options, and this applies to all social media, but Facebook groups specifically. Are you a consumer or a contributor? The contributors in Facebook groups and communities are the ones who are attracting more friends. They're attracting more followers literally every single day. And you don't need to go spend 10 hours a week in Facebook groups. You can literally go spend 20 to 30 minutes a week in specific niche Facebook groups and just offer and contribute value. I did a study, Natasha, not too long ago. Let's say the average group has 1,000 people in it, right? It's safe to say that if there's 1,000 people are in a Facebook group, there's typically only 5 to 8 people in that group that contribute consistently. So if you're in a group of 1,000 people, you're one of the consumers. But just by making a decision to contribute, you're now one of the top 0.1% of the people, which is immediately going to elevate your name, your brand, your level of credibility, and just overall friendliness, right? Naturally, and I'm gonna kick it to you, naturally, you're gonna start attracting friends and followers. I know you guys have seen this method work so well.
Yeah. Well, and I'm in a few groups that you're in, and I know it attracts new people to you, but what it also does is when you post in those in those groups that we're both in, it brings yours to the top, so you come front of mind. Even though we are followers, we're friends on social media, you become front of mind every time you contribute as well to those that are already in your network. I never even thought of that until the other day when I saw a post and I was like, oh, wait, I just saw it now today. I connected it. Like, wait, that literally brings it right front of mind. And that's what we as, marketers want to do, is always be front of mind of everybody we're communicating with.
Yeah, it's so funny. Even me as a coach and someone, oh, you got so many followers on all these platforms and all this stuff, but it's the basics. It's the simple basics. I won't say the name of the group, but I think I know which group you're referring to. And I hadn't been in that group. I just actually joined it like a week or two ago. And instead of getting in there and starting to offer all this value and social media tips or whatever to this massive platform group, I'm like, why don't I just create a little bit of curiosity and a little bit of, what's the right word? Controversy, just a little bit, but in a kind of genuine fashion, in a funny way. The post is still going. It's been like 3 weeks. And I'm getting new friends and
that. I'm like, that's brilliant.
I'm getting friends and followers every single day. I get notifications every day in that group. I don't even know how many people, 10, 20, 30,000. I don't know how many people are in that group. There's a lot. Yeah. The most valuable real estate in a Facebook group is the top of the feed. And guess where my post has been for the last 2 or 3 weeks? It's so funny, right? So Facebook groups is such an underutilized strategy. Most overthink it. Oh, I got to get in there and try to sell my products and business. No, that's not the idea. The idea is just get in there with some like-minded folks. Maybe you like to swim, maybe you like to hike, maybe you like to run, maybe you like to sew, maybe you like to garden. There's so many off-topic things that have nothing to do with your business. You can get in there with people and start connecting. There's a big percentage of those people in those groups that probably need what you have. So I'll kick it back to you again. I can go down a rabbit hole with that, but
absolutely. Well, let's go over to Instagram to the GNC method, because I know, like, you kind of, I'll age myself here. I'm 41. So Facebook's my comfort zone. Instagram is getting comfortable, but it's been a learning curve, right? And like you said in the beginning, you don't recommend having the same stuff on both, just for, some obvious reasons. But let's go into Instagram and talk about like what works over there.
Yeah, such a great question. So just to close the loop on Facebook, I feel you can talk about a handful of different things, right? Faith and family, a little bit of business, and some other hobbies and interests that you have, and make it fun and more conversational and relational. Instagram, again, completely different strategy. Over the last 12 to 24 months, and I only see this continuing to grow in popularity, is the folks who are niche down on Instagram, focus on one specific thing, are having the most success. And I would venture to say that this concept of niching down, like micro niching down, like a lot, is not going to be something that's just here today, gone tomorrow. I think that over the last, let's call it 7, 8, 9 years on Instagram, what we've all seen is more of the lifestyle influencer and that whole conversation where these people have hundreds of thousands, millions of followers. And that's cool. That is still working okay for those people who have established audiences, but there's so many new businesses, there's so many new entrepreneurs who, if they try to follow that same lifestyle concept, it just is not landing today. The people that are niching down and truly understanding who they serve, what they want to represent, the content they want to share, are winning the biggest. And I'll give you just a couple quick examples. So I'll use myself as an example first. So over on Facebook, right? Sure, I'm a social media coach, business coach, entrepreneurs all around the world. That's only one of 4 or 5 things that I talk about on Facebook. Over on Instagram, it's all I talk about, right? Instagram, I don't talk about faith. I'm not talking about my kids. I'm not talking about my love for golf and going to the gym every day. No, it's social media stuff for businesses. If you want to grow and scale using Instagram and social, that's everything you're going to see. Super niche down, super focused, talking about one specific thing. We've got some clients who sell all kinds of stuff, right? We got clients who sell weight loss and collagen. And I've got a client now who sells these really cool kids' watches, and just thinking about all these cool things. They're not trying to sell 20 different things. They're super niche down and focused. So take a couple of our clients who are focused on collagen. Their company has a dozen products. Collagen is their hero product, if you will. It's their number one seller. They wanted to position themselves as the go-to person to come to when someone needs some collagen. So they're just staying in that lane. So they understand, hey, people who are looking for collagen, their target market was men or women from the 35 to 50-year-olds, trying to reverse the aging process. And it's simple, super niche down and focus. These are the accounts that are having the most success. But as far as growth goes, I'll finish the loop here. Reels, again, number one growth strategy on Instagram today. Carousels are not far behind. For those that aren't aware what carousels are one post with multiple images. And something even new that I was talking with you guys about that they're just starting to allow is multimedia carousels, which can include little video clips and pictures in one post. And then the other favorite growth strategy, and then I'll kick it back to you, is doing live videos and specifically interviews on Instagram. This is probably, just like Facebook groups, is probably one of the most overlooked growth strategies on Instagram today, is finding someone that's authoritative, has some credibility within your niche, for example, and just asking, do 1 or 2 or 3 of these a month. You don't have to do them all the time. Do 2 or 3 a month, call it good, interview some other folks, because when someone else, for example, Natasha, I interview you on Instagram, you hop on my live video on Instagram, all of your followers get notified immediately that Natasha is live, which now they're going to come onto this live video, which is mine, and ultimately indirectly be exposed to me. So it's a great cross-pollination of audiences.
I absolutely love that. And, the interview thing, it stumps people. They're like, but what do I talk about? What do I ask them? It's like, well, what I love about interviews is I have to talk less. I just get to ask, just like this here, So I have coached a lot of people and they're so fearful of interviewing people. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so much easier. You just got to talk very little and you get exposed to everyone in their network. It is brilliant and it is so underutilized. It absolutely is. One thing you said about Instagram and that carousel that has multimedia, you brought it to our attention and I watched yours. And I'm telling you what, there was way more watch time for me on your post, on that carousel post, because I was like, oh yeah, words. Wait, what is this? And I stopped. And then I had to go back. So it took me back and I was like, let me actually read these words on the post, right? So when I did that as experience, the experience was like, oh wait, it stopped me. It stopped me immediately and took me back to the beginning to really read and understand what you were sharing in that. It was really cool. It was so cool.
Yeah, it's something that things are always being improved and added. And this podcast, I think it is something that is really cool. People with attention span of like -5 seconds nowadays, that's what most entrepreneurs and businesses are are starving for is more attention, more visibility, more eyeballs on their stuff. And so when you take something simple like a carousel that is typically just pictures, and now you add in 1 or 2 video clips, it just changes the perspective and the narrative of the content itself. Like you said, it's just, oh, plot twist, something different. So I think it's really cool.
It was cool. It was cool. Let's talk about, now that we know in this transition, if it feels right, but now that we know, okay, let's post, let's do some reels. Reels are both on both. We got carousels on Instagram, we have live video, we have Facebook groups. But now we get some traction on a post or a reel. What do we do with that? Like, social marketers, entrepreneurs, we all know, we've heard it, the fortunes and the follow-up, but they all struggle managing the follow-up. So how do you, number one, manage the follow-up, and what are some of your strategies on that?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And the second half of this conversation, I'd love to talk about self-made and the concept of systems and automation and stuff. I know that may or may not scare some folks tuning in, but there's so much opportunity and validation there with that. I think that's really the second component to follow up. And we'll get to that in just a second. You and I could probably go back and forth on that for hours, but I always go back to, no matter what your product or service that you're promoting, business you're building, I'm a big believer that no matter what platform you're using, your level of success is based on your level of skill. And when it comes to content creation, all that's cool. But when it comes to closing and taking someone from raising their hand, hey, I'm interested, I'd like to learn more about what you're offering, what you're selling, how you can help me. To me, that's a whole other skill set, right? Following up, learning how to ask the right questions. I've always said, especially for the social marketers, that the best recruiters out there, they're the ones asking the questions. For those taking notes, write this down. The person asking the questions is in control of the conversation. And this is probably one of the biggest sales psychology. I failed to mention this early on. I got my psych degree too, and all that baseball stuff. I figured out how to figure that out. But so you take psychology and sales psychology, you take business, and you take social media. That's what goes on in Coach Fryer's brain all the time, like 24/7. But if you go back and you think about that, think about understanding that the people who are having the most success, the people that are leading the conversations or asking the questions, here's the biggest challenge for most. No matter what they promote, no matter what they sell, they just word vomit all over people, especially when it comes to a private conversation. And they think that they're explaining and sharing all about their product, their business, their service, and they don't realize that they're actually doing more harm than good. If you, the person selling a product, are explaining all of it, who's asking the questions? Your lead, your prospect, your potential buyer. And if they're asking the questions, remember, go back to what I just shared, the person asking the questions is in control of the conversation. So many people struggle with closing and with follow-up, making it feel awkward and weird and salesy because they're doing all the talking. If they would just take a step back and say, listen, this isn't about me. This isn't about my product. This isn't about my business. This isn't about me making a sale. This is ultimately about the person I'm trying to serve and help. And if you take that, so if I start asking better, simple questions to get more information out of them, what do we know about people in general? They love to talk. What do they love to talk about? Themselves. The more you can get your prospect or lead or potential new buyer to talk about themselves, their challenges, their problems, the simpler it is going to be to just simply then introduce how you might be able to help them. So, that's probably the biggest thing. So just to close that loop.
That's huge. Like back in the day, that's what we taught. And still today, that's what we teach. And it's the first thing people forget.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me. Like, Coach Fryer, I'm struggling closing him at getting any sales. Send me a screenshot of a few of your conversations with some of your prospects, and it's word vomit paragraph. And then the prospect is like, hey, cool, thumbs up. And it's like, it's not their fault. Don't be pissed off at them. You're the one who word vomited over them. You overwhelmed them. They're busy. They're doing stuff. And you still have no idea the root cause of their issue and their challenge and their problem. When we make the focus on them, I just think it simplifies things. But then along that process of asking questions, you're going to learn how to ask questions. You're going to mess up. You're going to screw up. You're going to lose some prospects and leads as part of the process. One of my mentors said that you don't learn by learning. You learn most by doing. Right. So just take that into consideration. You're going to mess some conversations up. That's fine. But guess what mistake you won't make on the next conversation? Pretty simple. But you take that, and you improve your own skill set of learning how to ask better questions to better serve the people you're trying to help. And then, Natasha, I'd love to transition into, once you have that skill down, and then you get introduced to something like Self-Made, to where you can start incorporating some systems, automation for follow-up. And you and I have been talking a lot about nurturing that person. I think you and I were talking about, a lot of people are scared of automation because they think it's just a robot. But you and I have been talking a lot, and I'll kick it to you to elaborate more on this, of how we can customize and personalize and make it feel more of an intimate conversation with these folks, not just like they're talking to a robot. But I think automation is something that so many folks are going to be taking more advantage of over the next 12, 24, 36 months. And it's made a huge impact on our businesses, your guys as well.
Yeah. Well, and I think we share this, you said earlier, was, we kind of were hesitant to go into the automation world because we thought we would lose ourselves and it would become a robot. Because I remember in the beginning, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, who's talking to me? This is so robotic. People were using it in a way I didn't agree with. I was like, this is not a good experience. So I stayed away for a while, not understanding it and realizing the power in automations. And I think about this. I can either customize and personalize, keep my brand voice, my authenticity in an automation that is going to follow up and start conversation, or I can miss out on the opportunity altogether. Which one do I want? I don't want to miss out on the opportunity. I don't want to not impact the individual because I'm at a basketball game for the next 8 hours and I cannot properly follow up. You're at the hockey rink for the next 5 days and you can't properly follow up. So I stepped into automation and realized it doesn't have to be the way I was seeing it. It could be so different and such a good experience somebody goes through. And we always talk in sales, you want to qualify the person, right? Asking all the questions, being the one in control and asking those questions, you're essentially qualifying that individual for what you have to offer. Same thing happens in automations, and it's a fun place to be. I could talk about automations all day, every day. So, and I know that you're using a lot of automations in your social media, but that doesn't mean you're not also manually having conversations, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that something like automation will ever replace something like the personal connection. I think after the world went crazy about 3, 4 years ago, everybody locked themselves in their houses. Fast forward the tape 4 years now, I think now more than ever, people are starving for connections and relationships. I want to just share one quick example in relation to social media, Natasha. I think this would be really helpful for the audience. So use myself as an example. I've got, at the time of this, I think 47 some thousand followers on Instagram, right? I want to use that as an example. Some might say, oh my gosh, 47,000, that's amazing. You're famous. My kids, they're like, you're like an influencer, Dad. I'm like, no, I'm actually just a regular old guy. I like to help people. But some people see a number like that, 10,000 followers, 50,000, 1 million followers. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. Like, you're amazing. You're probably making lots of sales and helping lots of people. And while that might be true, here's where I've shifted a lot of my focus over the last 6 to 12 months and will continue to do moving forward, is Instagram has something called broadcast channels. And it's a way for people, it's something that's free. You have to have 10,000 or more followers to be able to create something like this. So that's the first hurdle. But once you cross 10,000 followers, you can create your own broadcast channel. And for me, I saw this as, okay, Instagram doesn't have Facebook groups, right? They don't have a place to build community and more intimate connections and strengthen relationships with folks and create more of a raving fan circle, if you will. And so I was like, okay, 47,000 followers. Cool. That's great. That's awesome. It might look great, but I'm not interested in just vanity metrics of 47,000 followers. I want to know, of those 47,000 people, who is serious, number one, about taking their business next level, using my systems and strategies. Number two, open and willing to connect on a more deeper level with me, so we can build know and trust in a more intimate environment. And for Instagram, for me, that's broadcast channels. So just to give you guys the numbers, 47,000 followers in Instagram, but I've got 1,900 people in this broadcast channel. Guess where my focus is? Sure, I'm creating reels and content to serve the 47 plus thousand as that continues to grow. Where's a lot of my focus though? Nurturing, serving, communicating with the 1,900 or so that are in there now. So I just want to use that as an example. You talk about nurturing and cultivating more stronger, deeper connections and relationships. This is what's ultimately going to help all those tuning in to drive more sales.
Yeah. So one thing going off of that, there's been a lot of people use automations, right? The keyword automations. They say drop a purple heart in the comments and it kicks off an automation, or drop info, or drop whatever, right? You're dropping a word into, everybody knows by this day and age, or if you don't, well, I don't know where you've been, but if you do the call to action, you actually do it, it's going to kick off an automation that is already preset. But what I've noticed, and let's talk about how automations can make or break that conversion that we so want. But some people just, the first thing is like, yeah, check your DMs, I just sent you a message, and then they send the link. That's it. And just like you were saying, nurturing, like, if I don't know the person, I don't trust them yet, and all they do is send me a link, I'm like, well, why do I need this? Like, going back to that hybrid of having that kind of conversation and asking the questions to qualify them to say, I absolutely need this. Like I always say in the past, I would say, how can I get somebody to lean in and lean in some more and lean in even more to where they're just like pulling their credit card out to buy or join or do whatever it is that the call to action is taking them through. But just sending a link, yeah, we got to do better out there, guys. We got to do better. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, we absolutely. And you and I have been talking a lot about this lately. I think to take a step back, 10,000 foot view and lens of this,
Mm-hmm.
this has been said a gazillion times. People buy from those they know and trust, right? So let's take that philosophy that I think will, again, stand the test of time because it's just true in sales and anything really. And now we talk about incorporating automation and stuff. So now let's talk about, you just created a reel, comment the word health, and then now all of a sudden that you send them a DM. I want you to think about that follower or potential follower that maybe doesn't follow you yet, just commented health. You just sent them a DM. I want you to think about, and I'm talking to the viewers here, the listeners, on a scale of 1 to 10, where is that person's level of trust with you in that very moment? They just stumbled across your reel. They stumbled across your carousel. They commented health. It piqued their curiosity. You got their attention. Now you send them a DM. Here's the information. At that moment, right then and there, where is their level of trust? Natasha, maybe take a wild guess. From 1 to 10.
Yeah.
1 terrible.
You're looking at like a 2, maybe a 3, unless they already really know you, right?
If you're lucky. Yeah, if you're lucky, maybe a 2, possibly a 3, maybe even just a 1. They're brand new to your world. Your reel was in their explore page. They really don't know much about you. You and I are talking a lot about this and how can we do a better job on the automation side of things to personalize and customize, because ultimately people don't make a buying decision until, in most cases, are a 7 or an 8. That's just in most cases. So again, if you're wanting to generate more sales with something like Instagram and automation, keep this concept in mind. Where is this person's level of trust? Go back to what I just shared about the broadcast channel. 47,000 followers. Cool. That's great. Where's their level of trust with Coach Fryer? Probably a 3, 4, possibly a 5. How do I get them to a 7? How do I get them to an 8? How do I get them to a 9? Broadcast channel, where I can build more intimate connections with them and so on. But back to the DMs, we can't just, and you and I are learning this, and I think so many others are learning this too over the last 6 to 12 months, that comment the word health and then just send them the link to buy something. The conversions are terrible. And I feel this is a big reason why. So this is a challenge for you and myself, as well as a lot of our clients, to figure out, okay, how can we insert a few other additional things here to take them from a level of 2 or 3 to a 4, to a 5, to a 6, and eventually a 7.
Absolutely. And one big statistics that always gets me is the chances of a individual to go to the conversion, right? Get to that conversion point is to make sure you're following up with them within the first 5 minutes of their interest. If your follow-up system is manual, guaranteed you're not following up with them in 5 minutes, right? This is the world we live in today. And that just, when I saw that statistic months ago, I was like, this is why automations are necessary. They're no longer a luxury. They're necessary in a business, especially that's growing as fast as everybody's growing on social media, to truly impact the individuals that are asking for info. Because, like, for instance, Brian, this is an example. A few weeks back, I was like, oh my gosh, I really like, you got all those influencers on Instagram that's selling all these cute little clothes. And I'm like, I want that shirt. So again, she says comment shirt in the, in the comments, and she sends a DM. Well, I commented shirt and I was like, do 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 do. Literally got nothing. Nothing came to me. Well, in the meantime, after about just a few minutes of not getting a DM, I went right over to Amazon and I found the thing and I bought it, and I did not have her link. So they are going to go and find what they want, whether you give it to them or not. So having that initial conversation automated, that initial DM that gets them started in conversation, is going to lead to you closing the deal versus Amazon or somebody else on social media. And let's talk a little bit about how we can you can have some conversation in DM and not just go from link, but yet structuring that. So we're just kind of starting on this strategy. Guys, we were talking this morning. We're like, oh, this is going to be good. Like, let's really understand this and dive in deeper. But thinking about how you take somebody from interested on it on social media to that first DM, there's still a one in your like 1 to 10 of how much they trust you. How can you, in just, let's say 6 or 7 conversation back and forth, get them to that 7 or 8 right there, right then, and roll with it and get them to
Yeah,
work?
this is probably like such a great question. It's probably like $1 million nugget. Just my personal thoughts on what makes people buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, this all comes down to a word that starts with an E. 90+% of buying decisions are based off of emotion. And so
Mm-hmm.
if we, as entrepreneurs and people that sell stuff, products, services, what have you, if the question is how Coach Fryer, how Natasha, how do I, if someone is a scale of 1 to 10, they're a 1 or 2 or 3, how do I get them to a 4 or 5, 6 or 7? The real question is, how can I invoke more emotion out of them, increase their level of emotional attachment to our conversation? It goes back to what we talked about a few minutes ago, right? Asking questions.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is their challenge? What are they struggling with now? Why? Here's another simple thought. When you ask someone, what's one of the biggest challenges you're facing with your health right now? And then they tell you, and then say, why do you think that is? And then say,
Ooh.
why do you think that is? Why do you think that? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those in a row, dig deeper and deeper. Guess what this is ultimately going to do? This is going to drive the emotion out of them, come spewing out in your conversation with them. Now their level of trust with you is going from a 2 or 3 to a 4 to a 5 to a 6. And it's not slimy, it's not salesy. It's showing that you have a true interest in actually helping them, not just making a sale, but also understanding sales psychology, that all of us make decisions based off emotion. And so I think that's
Absolutely.
crucial.
That, I mean, right there, we can just be done. I mean, boom, done.
Up the mic.
Drop the mic, it's done. But that's so true. And going from the post, which emotion, like, it created that curiosity, something caught their attention, to the DM, there's interest there. How do you take it to that next level? And I love how you just went through that. Like, my brain's going like on all these little paths of what we can do for somebody in the health and wellness space, somebody who's in real estate, the emotion of selling your house and buying your house, to the individual who is just trying to help kids have health, get healthier. And oh my gosh, like, the questions you could ask that truly evoke not just emotion, but that realization on their end as the buyer, that I need this. I cannot leave this without buying this. Like, I need this for this reason, for me, right? Serving them. Oh my goodness, my brain's going all over the place. This is so cool.
Here's what I think we should do. I think we should just package this up and just sell this podcast episode, because there's so much value in this one. This is going to help a lot of people.
I love it. But let's talk, because you came over to the Self-Made Hub. We helped you, number one, like, simplify your tech, right? You had things all over the place. And we're like, hold on, let's bring it into one place. But more importantly, we helped give you just that strategy, right? You would have done it. It would have happened. But that strategy to take followers, not just to email, but then into texting as well. So let's talk just a little bit about how, just over the last, so many months, it's kind of transitioned your business with a simplified strategy.
Yeah. Number one, it's been such a breath of fresh air, and I'm so thankful for you guys. I was someone who was, as a coach, doing lots of things. I had anywhere from about 12, 13, 14, 15 different tools and resources that I was using out there. I shared with you guys, I was spending $4,000 to $5,000 a month just in tools and things to operate the business. And it felt like I was putting a Band-Aid on this to put a Band-Aid on that. And this was broken. And then my support emails was full. And my team was like, what the heck's going on? But transitioning to self-made and partnering with you guys, it's simplified so much of our business, not to mention just a ton of money, but it's opened up things that we were not leveraging before. And more intimate email connections is one of those things. DM automation is taking this to the next level for us. And what I'm most excited about personally is just the SMS communication. I just finished up 2 different things. I did a free masterclass that was free for the public worldwide that I did. And I saw a big increase in live viewership and responses from that, because I was able to not just send them an email, hey, the webinar starts in an hour or something like that, but being able to send them a text. It like changed the game. And then I just got done finishing up launching my brand new Reels to Riches Academy Reels course. And the same thing, being able to launch that, had a wait list with an SMS communication, and that's really changed the game for us there too. I'm just super excited and only imagining the possibilities of what's to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one thing, me and Jess have talked for years about. People have these massive followings on social media, but that's one channel to communicate with them and nurture them and then convert them. That's one channel where if you take that channel and move them, now you have them in email, you have them in text. And this, I know on one of our trainings, you were like mind blown on the statistics, right? But let's just talk like the amount of followers you have. The average person is getting about 6 to 10% viewership on their post, their reel from their followers, right? So you got about, let's just give it a high 10%. If you're really good, you have higher than that. But let's just talk about average. So that's 10% seeing what you're doing and engaging with you. 10% of your followers. Then if you get over into email, you have those same 1,000 people, the same 1,000 followers on your email list. Now you have a 35% open rate at low of those hot, they've opted in. We've taken our vision from 10% to 35. You're going to have more conversions just in that little bit.
100%.
But then we take and go to the SMS, 9% within 2 minutes is seeing what you sent them. 98%. So you take that 1,000 followers on social media, get their phone number, send them a text. 98% of them are going to see it. How many are going to convert out of that compared to just a reel you posted? But then you hit them on all channels strategically, not spammy, intentionally, and all of that good stuff. But you're the front end, because without traffic, without people's eyes on what you're doing, people have to revert to ads, which then they're just wasting a ton of money most of the time because they don't know what they're doing. But having a true, good, awesome social media strategy with simple like GNC, keeping it simple, but yet having that growth, that nurture, and that conversion happening without that traffic, the back end isn't necessary. But when you start getting that traffic, the back end is necessary, because you want to have this all, like, you don't want to drop the ball. How many times I think back, Brian, about my journey in network marketing, and over the period of time I was in network marketing, we did over $300 million in online sales. That's amazing. But I know, because not everybody had systems in place, that number could have been 3, 4, 5 times more if we could have just captured and not missed out on many opportunities. And that's where the back end comes in. So self-made has been awesome for so many social marketers. And I know you see that too, because a lot of your clients are seeing it. So final thoughts, final tips, anything that's still on your mind that you want to share with this crowd as we close this out?
Yeah, I think just a couple of key words, right? Everything that I do, everything that you guys do at Self-Made, and all those who are tuning in, ask yourself a couple of questions. Number one, how can I simplify my current process? Whether that's social media stuff, time spent on social media, strategy, content creation, all that stuff. And then the same question on the back end stuff. Do I have something like a Self-Made in place to keep things simple so that I'm not glued to my phone 12 plus hours a day, but I can still generate the results I want in my business. The second word is intentional. I think a lot of times, especially social media, people are like, I spend 4 or 5, 6, 7 hours a day on social media. I'm like, if you were more intentional, could you just spend 1 to 2 hours a day and get the same result? Yeah. What would you do with that extra 2, 3, 4 hours in your day? I would spend more time with my family, go to the gym, some more personal care, self-care stuff. Like, start thinking about some of those things, simplify and intentional. I think what we have here, between all the stuff I'm helping with traffic and social media stuff, and you guys helping with back-end automations and systems, we've just got a lot more people to help out there, and really excited.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Coach Fryer, for being on with us. I know everybody listening to this probably, I mean, they're listening all the way through, because I was glued in as well. So I know they are here and they are grateful for everything you get. So we're going to have all of his stuff. You can follow him. We're going to have all that information down below. You're going to be able to click follow. You're going to be able to see all the stuff. You can join his Reels to Riches, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And just seriously, just follow and learn from what he's putting out into social media. I learned so much just by following his Instagram and really just understanding GNC and what he's putting out there. I'm like, oh, that's what he's doing. That's brilliant. That's really cool. So go follow him, have some fun, and please let us know if you have any questions whatsoever. But just real quick, if you are ready to take your business to the next level, you're ready to infuse some technology into your business, get that automation DMs happening. Well, we have some very simple tools all in one platform called the Self-Made Hub, and our SocialSync, which is where we have templates, we have tutorials, and we have a plug and play already ready for you to dive right in and start getting results as quickly as possible. So head over to our website, which is www.self-made.biz, and check things out. So again, thank you so much, Coach Fryer. And guys, please go follow this man. You're going to learn so much from him.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Thanks for tuning in to The Digital Shift. We hope today's episode gave you the tools and inspiration to take your business to the next level.
Don't forget, we have something for everyone to help you scale smarter. Whether you're just getting started or ready to go all in, we've got you covered.
Start with 14 days of free access to the Self-Made Hub, our all-in-one platform to automate, optimize, and grow your business.
Looking for more? Check out our Self-Made membership, where you can work at your own pace with help from your tech-savvy mentors.
Or take it to the next level with our 10-week accelerator program, perfect for those ready to scale with expert guidance and systems all in one place.
And if you're looking for done-for-you options, from custom funnel builds to fully done-for-you marketing systems customized just for your business,
visit us at www.self-made.biz to explore all of our programs and tools and find the perfect fit for your business needs.
Let's make your digital shift a reality. See you next time.